This is Scott Opitz, and I'd like to lead us off here with an introduction to the subject matter we're going to talk about today. We're very focused on the idea of process intelligence and all of the capabilities around that area, and specifically how it applies to digital transformation. When we think about the drivers for why we want to invest in digital transformation and why our customers do, this could be everything from improving customer satisfaction to your overall competitiveness, to revenue growth initiatives or expense reduction initiatives. It becomes pretty clear that a successful digital transformation project can't really give you the return that you're looking for unless the entire process, all of the underlying processes are optimized end to end. The reality is that in every industry, processes are everywhere. They're the life's blood or the nervous system of everything we do as businesses, regardless of the industry we're in. And so while those processes are there, it also represents a significant opportunity, because if we can improve those processes, if we can take the inefficiencies out, if we can identify opportunities for ways to excel in these processes, we give ourselves a good foundation to actually get a return on all of this digital transformation investment that we're making. Let me describe really quickly kind of how it fits together. The technology is built around a new patent-pending technology we've developed called timeline analysis. And it's really, if you can think about it, as having sort of three phases or three pillars of capability that arises from this technology. The first is what we would consider to be sort of the discovery mode, right? What's going on in my current environment? What's my current state? What's my baseline? The ability to then jump in and do some deep analysis, and then finally, after doing that analysis and hopefully taking some actions to maybe improve your processes, you then can actually go off and monitor it in production or at runtime to make sure that the end result is actually yielding the benefits that you had hoped to achieve. I'd like to turn it over to Alex Deibler. Alex is a senior solutions consultant with Timeline PI, and he's going to take you through a demonstration today that will actually show you the Timeline PI technology in action.
All right, thanks for that, Scott. Once we've successfully loaded data, we're presented with the overview page, which includes quite a few metrics, as you can see, which are going to give us a better understanding about our project and the data that we've uploaded. We'll look at the actual process path that the tool has generated. Now, each one of these horizontal lines is a timeline. It represents a separate claim, and those circles with the icons that I mentioned represent an event or a step that happened as a part of that process. So this screen is now showing me details specific to timeline or claim number X, essentially. So let's take a look at our process schema editor, and that will allow us to visually map that out. Now this is showing us that most common schema based on the milestones, which essentially I said that I care about. So it's showing us that most common path. The nice thing here is that this is not just a static Visio diagram. Once I save it, it now becomes a monitoring tool. It can tell me the number of claims which have gone one transition or path through the process versus another. So you can mouse over and get the number of transitions which have gone one path versus another, and you can see the thickness of the line obviously represents that more claims, more volume has gone one direction versus another. Right? If I don't want to look at this by volume and rather by the amount of time that's actually being spent in between these milestone events, I can change my metric here on the right. So I'll change this. The thickness of the line will now represent the time length of the transition. So I can clearly see where the longest average duration is occurring as a part of this process. Let's look for candidates that will be ripe for automation within this segment to try to drive down that average duration. We can see as things are progressing, where they're slowing down, where they're backing up and bottlenecking, right, and grouping up here within the process. Now, I just paused this, but you can clearly see where things are slowing down and backing up. And if there's anything that stands out, as they're actually changing colors, they're aging within the process. So you can see as they're going from yellow to orange, they're getting closer towards this 23-day in process. And if there's anything that stands out, for instance, this claim up here towards the top that somehow is still up towards coverage confirmed after over 20 days in the process, I can actually click on any one of these and dynamically drill in to that claim's specific details, right? Start to better understand exactly what happened with this instance, who was associated with it, and so on. Those interested in Lean, Six Sigma, anybody concerned with continuous improvement oftentimes likes this type of view of the data. What we're looking at is a frequency distribution of all the different process execution paths with the most commonly followed behaviors here shown towards the left. We've got our different events, and along the top you can see the count of timelines or claims, right, which have in a descending order, which have gone one behavior versus another. And we can clearly see here where steps are being skipped, things are being done repeatedly, out of order, maybe pinballing back and forth between different cues or steps. And as I scroll to the right, you're going to get more and more interesting and obscure behaviors. So I can see exactly how costly is it on average for us to execute a series of steps, one versus another. And it looks like there's a glaring example here, right, where I have $110 for the first two, but the third is almost $100 more expensive for me to generate claims going this path. And we have a relatively high variance number of claims actually executing this behavior. So not only can we do the compliance and the timing efficiency, but we can bring the bottom line into play here. We want to push people towards a more cost-effective way of completing this process based on the average cost per claim of any one of these given behaviors. Now, these queries, this is great, right? We can quickly go off and test a hypothesis to run to ground. Is it happening? Is it not? These are also set up to be able to trigger alerts. So I don't need to be sitting and babysitting this data all day long. I can create a condition that is going to fire off when conditions are met in my data that are going to make people aware that these specific cases are occurring, right? And we're going to build another level of accountability into that process, making sure when we go, we analyze, we uncover these interesting things that are happening. We want to make sure that we remediate that going forward and that people don't go back to that old behavior. And we can use alerts. Now, when we choose to break it down by agent, you know what, there's something interesting here. It looks like Carrie Ann is the agent who's responsible for almost 40% or 712 of these long-running claims. A protocol is going to allow me to define a set of rules, which I believe should always be followed, and is going to show us the timelines that violate that rule. So if I click Show Violations, here are all the various ways that this protocol was violated, but not just that it was violated, it also shows us the root cause, because there's a number of different possible ways that it could be violated, so we want detailed information.